Hey there, geeks, and welcome to another edition of the Wizards Wednesday Rewind. Adam and Mike coming at you after a fun week at the comic shop. Lots of stuff to talk about this time around. But first off, there is an anniversary of sorts, Mike. There's something we're celebrating right now, a milestone. We're talking about Deathlok. 50
Yeah.
years of Deathlok. What'd you think?
I was excited for this, Adam. I just recently got the first issue of Luther Manning's first appearance. It's Astonishing Tales number 25. I don't have it with me right now, it's all packed away. But I was excited to check this out to see what they were going to do because I'm a little bit more familiar with the 90s interpretation than Luther Manning. I only recently am getting into this Deathlok's character. Uh, so, as for this comic, I was a little confused going in.
Me
The
too,
way
me
it's
too.
written,
Yeah.
it's there's a lot of so it's a flashback kind of explaining how he became Deathlok. But the dialogue's really weird because they're constantly giving acronyms, explaining what the acronyms of things mean, and I was
There's so
constantly
many
like,
boxes explaining.
yes,
Yeah.
and it kind of threw me off a
I
bit.
didn't know. Do you think that was a joke? Like that was on purpose? They're just going to put as many acronyms as possible, and because it's so huge that it just feels like they didn't write this expecting anybody to know that, right? Like they just think it's funny that you have to explain so much.
Every page has like at least one acronym explanation, and
Yeah.
it's a bit much. It kind of took me out of what was happening. I was kind of like,
I mean, I'm just saying
like
Christopher Priest is the writer on that, and he has a sense of humor. So I feel like
so
he
maybe it is a
probably
joke.
did that,
Yeah.
with
Like
something in mind.
like I'm just gonna pull this one out. Like I don't know how necessary it is. Um water looks like MREs over there. And you're like, MREs? And you have to jump over to what it is. Meals ready to eat.
Well, if you've
M
been in the military or know anybody in the military, then you have an idea of an MRE. That's what the
so
soldiers carry. Yeah.
that's a common thing.
Yeah.
Again, okay. So either way, I think it's an interesting look at Deathlok, and who he is, and he's kind of revisiting where he was created, which is really cool. The other cool thing about this story is you're introduced to a new Deathlok, a female Deathlok. Um, yeah, I think it's a nice kind of 50th anniversary look.
Yeah, well, now that's an interesting take. So you feel like that scientist who because in the first story is Dennis Cowan and Christopher Priest just kind of saying like, here's the world that he's in, and then he's flashing back to before his surgery, his procedure, whatever, and
Yes.
then he meets up with this scientist who says like, oh yeah, we were friends before everything went to hell, and the the
Yeah.
the whole world was destroyed and you had your surgery. He's like, oh yeah, I kind of do remember you. But then he realizes that she and his computer, Deathlok always has his computer talking to him.
Yes.
And
Which I
so
love. I love that.
it's
To me,
very fun, the
that's
back and
always good.
forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
But
like
like,
Venom.
yeah, yeah, essentially the like, especially the movie Venom, yeah, that we've gotten used to. And so, but that she's like tried to say, oh yeah, like they have my husband and you can help me, and the guy who did this to you will get him together. The computer's like, no, she's lying, and he's like, I know she's lying, I know you're lying. And like she's like, you're still gonna help me? He's like, I got nothing better to do. So let me just go with you. Like, what am I going to do? Wander around this dystopia? Let's just see how it plays out, which I thought was such an interesting, like, motivation, if you want to call it that. He's just kind of like, yeah, I mean, let's just see how it plays out. And but she does, you're right. She has like the kind of cybernetic eye thing like him and all that. But I don't, is she officially like considered like does she have the same procedure? That's what I didn't get.
I don't know. It seems like she's kind of a Deathlock, but then she ends up being evil.
Yeah. The
Spoiler
other part
alert.
of it
Yeah.
too that's fun though is there's a scene where he's walking along and he finds this magazine on the ground,
Yeah.
and then they just have pages that are mock-ups of like this like kind of like popular science military magazine thing that looks old and decrepit. Like, so they've done a lot of fun things with this, including a history of Deathlok in the back. So there's like a vintage transcript of an interview with Rich Buckler, Doug Mensch, who created him, so they're all working together. And then you got to tell about the back, Mike, because it ties into the issue that you said you have.
Astonishing Tales 25 is the first published artwork of George Perez at Marvel Comics, and so he does this little, what do you call this, Adam? Like a little
It's like a
joke,
comic strip talking about the conception of Deathlok between
Deathlok,
the
yeah.
two creators. Yeah.
And it's like they've thrown away their idea, but then he crawls out of the trash can. It's
Yeah. So,
great. This It reminds me of we looked at like another was it Destiny or Mystique's one shot, or no, it was
oh
the
yeah,
wedding
the
special,
wedding special. Yeah.
where they did a nice history lesson about Destiny and Mystique's relationship. This is very reminiscent of that. A much cheaper price point, a more
Yes.
concise comic, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a huge thing. It's not got like
Yeah.
a real like thick paper stock or anything like that. It's a nice thing that if you want to catch up with the character and celebrate it, if you're a fan, they put it out there for you, and that's nice.
There is one thing about this. So I don't know if Luther Manning ever made it into the 616 universe. Do you
Oh,
know? Because like
because
the
he's in an
Deathlok,
alternate dystopia. Yeah, it's
yeah,
because it
like
takes
the
place in like the 90s, right? Like it started in like 83 or 84. Then yeah.
1970s. It was in the 70s.
Well,
It
that's when
was
it was created, but
yeah,
I think the universe they're saying like
is
in
eight.
1983 he was a soldier or something like
Yes,
that.
and then it's the 90s in the
Right,
dystopian
because that
universe.
was the future to them.
But then in the 90s, they had a different Deathlock, which was in the 616 universe. I forget that Deathlock's name. But then the end of this issue ends with Luther Manning being pulled into the Marvel universe by Doom. And
That
it
was a
says,
surprise. I was like,
yeah.
what in the world? Okay, they're building to something.
So I'm kind of excited about that to see where are they going?
Yeah, it
What
was
is
nice to know it wasn't just like a one-off thing. Like it probably is a one shot, but what I'm saying is it's a precursor to something bigger. So
yes.
find out
I'm
what that means. All
curious.
right.
Yeah.
Talking about, something that's not a one shot either. This is an ongoing, this is once again from the ashes, and that is Dazzler. You guys voted for it. I got a cool variant cover here because she's got her stereo with her cassette tapes, she's got her radio and her roller skates. So, what did you
It's a
think
great
about
cover.
Dazzler here, Mike?
So I think if you're a Swiftie fan, if you're a Taylor Swift fan, this book is for you. This if you're wanting lighthearted fun, this book is for you. Um, this is kind of the what was the other book we read where it felt like a day in the life a little bit?
Yeah, but yeah, that was that the
Cat,
what is that?
it was
There's so
Kitty
many
Pride.
adjectives. The last one, the X-Men with Kitty and yeah,
Yeah. What was the I forget what the title was,
I
but
know, exceptional, right?
Exceptional X-Men. Yes.
Yeah.
Feels similar to that in that it really is kind of a look at Dazzler and where she is post Krakoa, how she you know, how she's how she deals with being famous, famous musician while also being a mutant. And then, she's putting on a concert. She's told not to use her powers at all. But then the concert is interrupted by Scorpia. Is that a new character, Adam?
I probably just an old C-list villain they just pulled out of
Maybe.
mothballs.
Yeah. Let's hope she's a new character and our books will be worth so much money when she becomes an MCU character.
Well, I will tell
Yeah.
you this. So for me, like Dazzler, like I've read some of like the old 80s issues, and I've never read like the original graphic novel, but this seems like the core of the character, a performer who's a mutant who deals with prejudice and kind of, is navigating that world. But this was something where I was a little trepidatious because you told me it was written by the same person who wrote the Werewolf by Night comic we reviewed a few weeks back, and I was not a fan of that. But I'm starting to
I
realize
still have not read that.
no, you did not. That was
I
me.
have
Yeah.
not.
And
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, I think that was like more editorial interference. Like, we got to set this up. We got to reference this event. And I think it was just choppy. This is a straight narrative. And I found it just a real breezy, fun read. I'm not a Taylor Swift fan, but I put on her 1989 album and listened to it while I was reading. Because I'm like,
It's
I know the
great.
whole thing. People think she's going to play Dazzler someday or whatever, right? What I loved about this though, because you're right, it's Josie and the Pussycats, it's whatever,
It's
it's
that,
a
yeah.
band, going out there. But it's how they took all the existing like members of X Factor and X Force and worked them into her crew. So like strong guy is her roadie. He just carries, puts together all her pieces. But so
That's my favorite thing about it. Strong guy like setting up the stage.
but then multiple man, you have
Yeah.
JB Madrox is also like her sound tech, and so there's a million of him running around plugging in cables, and eventually he becomes her backup dancers also, which is really fun. And like you have Domino is her security. And so there's a whole
Yep.
sequence about her like learning to defend herself, which comes in handy when that attack takes place, like you said, live on stage. And so I really liked it. I'm loving when especially with these issues in the back, they're having the writers do like a little editorial about why they're writing these books. And I really liked what Jason Liu was saying here, because he's like, I wanted to write a book like this years ago. I did a pitch about Lila Cheney, who's the other like mutant rock star from space or another dimension, I think. I don't know. Yeah, in the X-Men universe. And he's like, so I had all these characters I wanted to work into her crew, and it just never went anywhere. And then they come at me with Dazzler, and I'm like, I'm ready to go. Like I'm excited about doing this. So there was a real passion behind it. You can feel it.
Yeah.
Also, he writes original songs. Like
I know
there's
throughout.
song lyrics all throughout, and in the back they put them in there so you can do
I
it.
I think if Marvel, I don't, if they had the budget, if they could get someone to perform it and actually release the song at the same time as the book, this book would have been huge.
That's what I was expecting. They have like all these Disney Channel stars, that they're raising up, and it just seems like it'd be natural for that. But
Oh, it would have been such a natural fit. The thing I was also shocked about is this is an ongoing. I thought this was a one shot. I thought we were getting
yeah,
a bunch of one shots. So this is going to be, I presume, her on tour, and kind like she seems to be bridging that gap between mutants and humans. Like she is the character that can do that because you see, I think about, it's a really smart angle because I think about Will and Grace. I really believe that show was a show that normalized, homosexuality and brought kind of pe- brought people to uh, accept, you know, people that are
yeah. Well, and,
different.
and there's a storyline in this that kind of deals with that, right? Her
Yeah.
drummer is Shark Girl, and
Yeah.
they put a collar on her, like the image inducer, whatever it's called, that Nightcrawler used to wear,
Yeah.
so that she looks human on stage, but it gets damaged, and so
Damaged.
then
Yeah.
on stage she's Shark Girl all the way. And so Dazzler gives this speech about it. She's the best drummer you could ever want. We're all just here to be together, like let's have a good time, and it doesn't matter, our differences and things like that. So yeah,
I will say I know people are gonna hate this. They just will. I think you need to know going into it what it is.
yeah,
And hopefully we've described that well enough. But yeah,
yeah.
I
I don't see the ongoing, because it does feel like it's a wonderful one shot. They're saying next issue she's going to be in London, she's going to be in the UK
but I
touring.
like that. To me, it's episodic. Like it really is like an episodic. It's like, the Incredible Hulk. He goes from town to town. It's Dazzler going from tour to
And
tour.
it's not teasing, like there's not like a big bad in the shadows. There's nothing like that.
No.
It's just the tour. Yeah.
Who will be her Travis Kelce? Is that his name?
Also, I don't know. I don't watch football. You don't watch
I
American
don't
football.
either. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
I don't know. I was watching that 90s show last night. That's why I have Kelso on the brain.
Kelso. Okay.
Anyway,
All right, let's move on.
so another one that was pretty up there in the votes but didn't quite make it was World's Finest issue 31, which is the start of a new arc with this. It's called Batman Superman World's Finest, but this is like a JLA book. I had to grab this variant though, because I was just like, it doesn't cost anymore and it's awesome. It's for Batman Day. But look at this. It's like an
Oh, it's
homage
an
to Neil
homage.
Adams, but also Batman 89. So it's really cool looking. And the nice thing is the real cover is on the inside. So,
That's cool that they do that.
yeah, so I like that. So this is dealing with Eclipso reappearing, reemerging. They talk it's so, but it's basically like the JLA are helping the Dr. Bruce Gordon, who was previously inhabited by Eclipso, build this like solar city that runs on all solar power, but he's all stressed out. He's like, it's only running at 92%. It has to be perfect so I can make up for all the bad I did as Eclipso and all that kind of stuff. So he's stressed out. And then he's like, if only I had this one, particular piece of technology, it could really work. And then Eclipso apparently has sabotaged him, like where he set up this thing where, hey, this is it's an illusion that makes it look like this device he needed. And when he inserts it, it basically, this is the part I was a little fuzzy on. Mark Wade is writing this, but it was just like, Eclipso normally has his crystal that he's been imprisoned in, and then he's released. And when there's an eclipse, that he can control people, whatever. But now he says there's a second crystal that is like the yin to the yang of that crystal, and I was able to get it energized when he inserts this device and turns it on, and now Dr. Bruce Gordon is inhabited with the evil light power of Eclipse. So it's like the opposite. That kind of confused me, but it's basically then,
I'm confused. You just
yeah.
described.
And certain JLA members get possessed by Eclipso once again, and then there's going to be a battle. But the big reveal, the big interesting setup to this, which really was a good action-packed issue, is that Eclipso, like possessing Dr. Gordon, makes him shoot this beam that blows up the JLA satellite, and then a red tornado was there, and he's able to beam himself down to Earth, but he already had been damaged. Eclipso attacked him, and so he crawls like to this townhouse in New York or something, and he's like, I need your help. And then the big reveal at the end is it's the JSA. So the Justice Society are all there, and they're like, what do we need to do? So they're gonna go help the JLA now. So it's just kind of like a classic
So
setup
this is
story.
Mark Wade writing still?
Yeah, so it's a Mark
Okay,
Wade story.
cool. So
So
would you continue this series, or are you like,
it's it's interesting. It was one of those things. It feels slightly like a throwback, like I said, or just a classic superhero story. It's not trying to be more than that. So if that's what you've been craving, like, let's not be clever. Let's, because I just feel like this has probably happened a million times. The satellite's been blown up. JLA reaches out, to the JSA for help. Like, I'm sure that's over and over again. But it seems like if you like Eclipso, if you like, oh, there's a new angle on Eclipso, maybe that's for you. I don't think it is for me, but I did enjoy what I read, but there wasn't enough of a hook there because I'm not a Justice Society fan per se.
yeah, okay. What else did you read? I've only read the other two.
Yeah, well, and you said you went to your store and they had like hardly anything
It was
that
nothing. It was
won. Yeah.
nothing that was on our list at all.
So I was also I reviewed this before, Jenny Sparks, and I
Oh
had a
yeah.
little bit of criticism for that first issue. I wanted to see what happened when Captain Atom, who has turned evil, has basically taken hostage in a bar a group of people who I was kind of upset that most of the first issue was setting them up, and I'm like, ah. But this is really good. This is what I'm realizing about this Jenny Sparks series is it's kind of like uh I don't know, take Warren Ellis, like the kind of stuff that he would do, right? But then it's filtered maybe through a little bit more of like, it has a sense of humor. It's a little dark that way, but then there's a little bit of Alan Moore in it, or maybe even more Neil Gaiman is appropriate,
Huh.
because think about, that issue of Sandman, the storyline that takes place where like it's in a restaurant, and like there's that guy who's killed everybody, and there's all this stuff. So that's what it's like, because it's like a bottle episode essentially. It's like take place in a bar. Jenny Sparks is coming in talking to Captain Atom. He wants to be a god, and he's like, look, these are all the reasons that you guys should just accept it. He kills this guy, and then he just rematerializes him. He's like, I can do this. He's like, there's one of the guys is riddled with cancer, and he's like, comes over, touches him. He's healed now. He's going to live for years. You guys should just worship me. Make me your god. Why are we fighting this? And so all of that is like really just interesting back and forth conversation. The dialogue, Tom King is doing a great job. He even has just sidebar characters, some firemen that just get a full page of like a jokey conversation, like guy talking about like, I was gonna go on vacation, we're gonna go to the beach, but then all these shark people attacked, which I think was a recent storyline in DC. There was some attack by shark people. It's like, what kid, are you even listening to me? So like that was fun. The only thing that confused me, and maybe it's a setup for something later, is it opens with the Twin Towers recently, like smoking and hit.
Oh,
And then at the end, Jenny Sparks is in a different time and place, but in her same outfit, listening to the radio a report about 9/11 just happening. And I have no idea what that has to do with anything. And so it was really jarring because there's also like a little spot in the middle where it shows her because she dies and she's resurrected, right? That's what she does. And it shows her coming alive for the first time or it on 9/11, and then somebody says like there's like an attack on a building in London, and they're like, do you think this has to do with what happened in New York? She's like, what the hell happened in New York? So I'm just like, I don't know what 9/11 has to do at all with any of this story, but he's weaving it in, so maybe issue 3 will tell me that.
well,
But now
Tom
I'm
King
wondering.
is great at payoffs, so I feel
Yeah,
like the payoff is coming. What? How long is this miniseries?
that's what I don't know. I mean, because it doesn't necessarily say, it just says book 2. So obviously there's going to be a book 3, but are there 4? Like hopefully it's just 4. I'd like to keep it concise. I don't know that there's
No,
a
it'll
lot
be
more to
12. It's going to be
discuss.
12, Adam. Just accept it.
um, Last one here. You are the one who recommended me to grab this, and you
I
said
would
that some
like to
other people have
stop
been
for
talking.
I would like to stop for 1 second. We recommended doing I recommended doing reviews on new comic books. And when we started, I was getting like 5 or 6 comics a week. I'm I'm down to 1 or 2,
And I'm
and
all in.
Adam is getting piles. Tell us about this book, Adam. I recommended it. My shop didn't get my copy in, so I have to wait another 2 weeks because they think they didn't order it correctly.
Yeah, like I had heard nothing about this. Daniel
Okay.
Warren Johnson,
Yeah.
not a name I know, but I know he's a rising star for sure. Like he's
Yes.
a
Yeah.
big name. And Riley Rossmo is the artist on this, I guess. So this is I going in totally blind. So it's a kind of a fantasy sci-fi setup. And at first I thought, oh, okay. It's just gonna be like battle chasers or just I don't like Tolkien style fantasy or D&D style fantasy. That's not for me. But this is really interesting. Like the basic setup, it's handled very clearly and cleanly. There is a husband and wife. They are a father and a mother to a daughter that they're trying to storm this fortress and rescue their daughter. You don't know how she got there. You don't know why. They have a little frog buddy who's like, like kind of a little warrior backup guy, who's waiting for the call, like, okay, you got to do this at this time. And they're like arguing the whole time. You could tell like the husband is really not a fighter, but the wife is like a warrior and she's awesome. And he's like, let's just like let's creep in and sneak in. And she's like, I'm ready to kill some people. And so when they get into the fortress, like obviously like he messes some stuff up. He's not as stealth as he thought. So then it's just a fight. So there's all this action going on, right? Like there's just battle, battle, battle. But then like they have to stop and get some basically a special device that's going to allow them to save their daughter, all this stuff. So what I liked about it so much is it's a fantasy world, but it's not filled with lore. That
Ah.
they weren't trying to like overload you with setup. It's just like a little bit here and there in the dialogue, a name here, a recollection of something that happened here, but it's not flashbacks. There's like one flashback panel at all, and it's just the title of the book where their daughter's saying, "The moon is following us," and then that's it. And then
Oh,
at
that's funny.
the thing you find out at the end, which I thought was so cool, is that it's some sort of VR or alternate dimension that their daughter is trapped in because the wife gets hurt, so they have to leave. They can't save their daughter after all. And when they're back home, all of a sudden now they're just in normal clothes in a normal suburban house, but they've got these wires and these headsets. And then they find their daughter is in her bed with the headset connected, and they say she's been asleep for like 6 years. And so that's the payoff. You're like, whoa, okay, so now what's really going on here? Like they inhabit these avatars or what? I don't know. But just like great characterizations, very, very like interesting art, like that really pops in a big way. And so yeah, it's kind of a fascinating, family tale, which you can relate to. And as parents, you and I could definitely be like, oh, okay, if you got to save your child, you're going to do whatever you need to, that type of thing. So real interesting start to this story.
So,
So
Adam, I think if you have the time, you should check out his book Murder Falcon.
okay,
Daniel Warren Johnson, he does the art of that one as well. I think you'd love it.
interesting.
I'm just
Okay,
gonna leave it at that. This video's gone on way too long. So
yeah.
check out Murder Falcon now. If you enjoyed this. Yeah.
Yeah, so much to talk about. So yeah, so there we go. We hope that you enjoyed our reviews and recommendations. You can still run out if you're going to go on Saturday for Batman Day and pick up a few issues. Maybe you'll grab some of these too. Maybe we've whetted your appetite for that. So in the meantime, make sure that you are connected to us on social media at Wizards Comics, where you can vote next week and tell us what we should be buying, and hopefully Mike's store will be stocking it. Yeah, and if not, maybe some of these now you can put on your poll list if they're not going to have it every week and you want more, you can do that. So very fun. Yeah, Mike, you've totally converted me to new
I
comics
know.
and new comic
Who
day.
is this guy?
So I'm having a great time. But in the meantime, stay subscribed here on YouTube as well, because we'll be back with more videos of varying sorts. We have haul videos, we have all sorts of stuff to bring your way. Just want to remind you also, right now, you can get it. Our latest episode that just dropped was the 1999 Wildstorm special that Wizard put out, and we're doing a Patreon preview. What that means is that post on Patreon that normally we just post it early with the uncut version of the episode, with a PDF scan of the issue, with access to a video version of the conversation, all of that is now free. For that post, you can go download the PDF and have it for yourself. You can read through as you're listening to the episode, and there's a whole bunch of extra conversation. There was like 15 minutes at the front where we were waiting for one of our guests to come on that we had an awesome conversation. Just the first guest who hopped on and myself. So anyway, just something to look forward to. You just go to patreon.com/wizards comics and you can access that now. That is the public post that is ready to go. But in the meantime, keep your books bagged and boarded.